वक्रतुंड महाकाय सूर्यकोटि समप्रभा निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देवा सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरु साक्षात् परब्रह्मा तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। हरि ओम्। श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। On Mondays, we usually study the Bhagavad Gita, gift, Gita for Inner Freedom and Transmission series. Beginning today, for the next 6 weeks, we are going to study the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. So far, Param Vedanta has studied a number of Upanishads like Ishavasya Upanishad, Kaivalya Upanishad, the Mundaka Upanishad, and the most recently, the Chandogya Upanishad with Karika. One of the Upanishads we hadn't studied was the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, and understandably so because of its sheer size. Brihad means very big, and it is called Aranyakam because generally it is studied by rishis who have retired to the forest, Aranya, meaning they have taken sannyasa. Applied today, this Upanishad can be studied even by grihasthas, meaning all of us who are committed to spiritual studies despite their worldly duties. This Brihadaranyaka Upanishad is traditionally attributed to the sage Yajnavalkya and belongs to the Shukla Yajur Veda, and as is custom, the study of all Upanishads is preceded by the chanting of Shantipata of the respective Veda. The Shantipata is one which we all know is Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate. Beginning today, for the next 6 weeks, our respected teacher, Dr. Timmappa Hegde sir, will give us an overview of this great voluminous Upanishad. Through sir's simple words, coming from his own vast knowledge and the grace of our gurus, we welcome you to soak in the wisdom of the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Radha, for a very nice introduction. Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Pariyantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om. For many reasons, over the years, one Upanishad we have been regularly avoiding the study is Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. As already explained, Brihad means big. It is a huge Upanishad, and maybe because of the sheer volume compared to all other Upanishads. For example, the last Upanishad we studied, Mandukya, is only 12 mantras. The Ishavasya Upanishad is 18 mantras. This has some 400 odd mantras in there. And therefore, this becomes a huge Upanishad to study. And there has been a sort of a mind block to study this Upanishad. Fortunately, I had an opportunity to join a retreat by Swami Chidanandaji, which forced me to look into the greatness and the beauty of this Upanishad. Before we study any text, one question we need to ask is, why are we studying that particular text? Is it for scholarship? Is it for transformation? Especially, topics like Brihadaranyaka, it may look like, yeah, I have studied Brihadaranyaka also. Patanjali, in one of his talks on the Yoga Sutras, has addressed seekers or classified seekers into three categories: Kutuhal, Jignasa, and Mumukshu. Kutuhal is one who comes to a study because he's curious. All of us are curious. When somebody says we are studying the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, there is a certain curiosity to know what is this Upanishad all about. That could be level one of a listener. The curiosity would be fulfilled, and such a person does not have a very strong drive. The next higher level of a seeker is called a Jignasa. Jnanam Ichchas, one who's longing for knowledge. And such a person is seeking knowledge. He wants to know what is this Brihadaranyaka, how many chapters, how many mantras, what are the important mantras. So this is certainly a next higher level, a person who's wanting to know, and he goes to an appropriate teacher to study. But then Patanjali says the highest level of a listener is a mumukshu. A mumukshu is one whose real desire is freedom. And for freedom, he wants whatever knowledge which will help us to be free. What is that which prevents us from being free? Uh, in one inheritance we all have, and that's what the Upanishads talk, is called the Hridaya Granthi. The Hridaya Granthi means there is a certain knot in the heart. The knot in the heart is basically ignorance about our true nature or avidya. And because of avidya or ignorance, this leads to many byproducts or adhyasa. And the next adhyasa or error that comes from the ignorance of my true nature. I do not know that I am already complete and purna. So a desire comes in my heart that if I do this or that, if I accomplish this, then I will be happy. Once the desire comes, then there is karma. I cannot sit quietly. I have to do. And any action that I do will generate punya or papa. These can create impressions in my mind. And that is why it creates vasanas. And the whole objective of our whole spiritual journey is, when I study Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, or any Upanishad for that matter, this Hridaya Granthi should be, the knot in my heart should go. Vidyate. Somehow the knot should disappear. Chidyante sarva samshaya. All my doubts about my true nature. Who is this jiva? What is this? Who am I? What is this world? Who is God? Why is there so much suffering? What are the spiritual sadhanas? All that should go away if my knowledge is very clear. And of course, in any study, Swami Anubhavananda has given one clear message. Spiritual life is not a part-time occupation. It is a full-time preoccupation. And with that vision, let us see how we can explore this text of the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. We have studied the Ishavasya Upanishad consisting of 18 mantras. Both of these come from Yajur Veda. Yajur Veda has got two shakas or two branches. One is called the white school or the Shukla Yajur Veda. So both these are the major Upanishads which have come from the Shukla Yajur Veda, and therefore that's why we chant this mantra Om Purnamada. Strictly, Ishavasya does not come in Veda Anta, it comes in the Veda Purva. That is why it is also called the Mantropanishad. Whereas the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad comes in the Veda Anta portion. There are some commentators who said that the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad is a commentary on the Ishavasya Upanishad. And when we study Brihadaranyaka, you will see many mantras are common. In general, Upanishads do not have any prayer. But in Ishavasya, there is an exception. 15, 16, 17, 18 is called the Charama Prarthana. And this Charama Prarthana comes towards the end, I think in the 5th or the 6th chapter of the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad also. We heard the chanting of Om Purnamada. And it is our practice at the end of every class, we chant Om Purnamada. There is one prayer all of us know. and it is very beautiful, it is very poetic. And that is the Shanti Pata for Shukla Yajur Veda. It is a unique Shanti Pata. Why is it unique? Normally, all the Shanti Patas are a kind of a prayer to give us certain qualifications, to give us certain fitness, and so on. This Shanti Pata is not a prayer. In fact, it is the summary of the entire Upanishadic wisdom. That is why it is said, if you understand this one mantra, Om Purnamada Purnamidam, you have got the essence of all Vedanta. This mantra, although it is simple to chant and know, and we all know this mantra, I can say one thing for sure. It is extremely difficult to understand this mantra. And because it is difficult to understand, it is also difficult to explain this to somebody. Now, this normally in all these Upanishads, the Shanti Pata comes right in the beginning. But here in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, the Shanti Pata comes only in the 5th chapter. And therefore, the 5th and the 6th chapter do not have much of Vedanta. So when we come, that means 1 month from now, when I come to the 5th chapter, I will explain Om Purnamada. But because this we have studied before, I will request you to study this particular Shanti Pata. Explain it to one person. If you can make one person understand, then you will realize the depth of this particular Shanti Pata, this particular prayer, because it is difficult to understand and difficult to explain it to somebody. Adi Shankara has given a commentary on this Upanishad when he's speaking about it in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. The same Upanishad comes in Ishavasya, where he does not give a commentary. Now let us come to what is this Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. As I already said, the Shukla Yajur Veda. So Yajur Veda has got 2 branches, Krishna and Shukla. Within Shukla Yajur Veda, there are 2 sub-branches. One is called the Kanva Shaka and the other is called the Madhyandina Shaka. And very strangely, this Upanishad appears in both the Shakas. So the entire 434 mantras appear both in the Kanva Shaka of Shukla Yajur Veda and in the Madhyandina Shaka. And there are slight differences at all. Adi Shankara has given a commentary of Brihadaranyaka as it occurs in the Kanva Shaka, and Vidyaranya Swami has given a Bhashyam, a commentary, as it occurs in the Madhyandina Shaka. We'll proceed with the word Brihad means big. That is how the word Brahman also comes. Brahman comes from Bri. Bri means the big. And Brihad means, the word Aranyaka means forest. Because as well as explained by Radha, whenever a person takes to sannyas or is a vanaprastha, so it is studied by those people who give up social responsibilities and dedicate more into a spiritual study. Now, the word Ranya, Rana also means battlefield. Arana means not a battlefield. That means normally the society that we live in is a battlefield in itself. Every day, both in our homes, in our work life, we go through so much of conflicts. That is why the forest, when you leave your homes, leave society and go to the forest. So another interpretation, Aranya, is not a battlefield. The word Brihad means big. Big in terms of the Upanishad is big in the number of mantras. Each mantra is also very voluminous compared to other Upanishads, and qualitatively also. That is why they say this is a very deep and a profound Upanishad. Now let us compare the Brihadaranyaka and the Chandogya Upanishad and see which is the bigger of the 2 Upanishads. Although Brihadaranyaka has 434 mantras, whereas the Chandogya has 670. On the surface, it looks like Chandogya Upanishad is a bigger Upanishad because it has more number of mantras. But each mantra in the Brihadaranyaka is very long. And because the mantras are long, the Upanishad itself is much more voluminous. Also, the first 5 chapters of Chandogya Upanishad are clearly Upasana topics. There is a clear distinction in Chandogya between the Upasana portions and the Vedanta portion. Chapter 5, 6, and 7 of Chandogya are Vedanta, and generally, Acharyas like Adi Shankara will focus on the Vedantic portion and give their commentary on that. And therefore, whereas in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, the Upasana portion and the Vedanta portion are all intermixed. And one of the reasons, therefore, is when you study, you will see some Brahmanas. Brahmanas mean certain sections. So within each chapter, there are various sections called Brahmanas. Certain Brahmanas are exclusively dedicated to Upasana. And therefore, in this introduction, I thought we should know a clear understanding of what Upasana is all about. If the commentary by Adi Shankara, if you see the volume, it is twice as longer in the Brihadaranyaka compared to Chandogya. So then you will see the Upanishad is, Brihadaranyaka is the bigger of the two Upanishads. Now this slide is an important slide. As I said, Brihadaranyaka has 434 mantras. It is divided into 6 chapters. Each of these chapters are clubbed together into kandams. That means Chapter 1 and 2 is called Madhu Kandam. 3 and 4 is called Muni Kandam. 5 and 6 are called Kila Kandam. Maybe at some other later stage we'll understand why they are called so. Madhu means honey. But here Madhu has actually a technical name. The technical name here, Madhu here means something that is interdependent, something which is not independent, and therefore it is mithya. So because this chapter talks a lot about creation, so the creation is mithya, we can understand chapter 1 and 2 is called Madhu Kandam. Chapters 3 and 4 is called Muni Kandam, because the teacher here is predominantly one person, and that is Yajnavalika. Whereas chapter 5 and 6 is called Kila. The word Kila means miscellaneous. It is mainly upasanas, very little of Upanishadic portion or the philosophical portion is there. Now, Vidyaranya Swami in his commentary has reclassified Madhu Kandam as Upadesha Kandam, the teaching portion, Muni Kandam as the Upapatti portion. Upapatti means the logic-based portion, and the Kila Kanda is primarily various forms of upasanas or various forms of meditations. So you can also look at it as Shravanam, Mananam, and Dhyanam, not Nidityasanam, because there is no Vedantic portion, but predominantly Upasana, and that is the general outlay of these Upanishads. This slide is a repetition. So therefore, 434 mantras divided into 6 chapters. In Sanskrit, it's called Shad Adhyayi. There are kandams where 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5 and 6 are first, second, and third kandams respectively. The first pair is called Madhu Kandam, also called Upadesha Kandam. The second Kandam is chapters 3 and 4, Upapatti or Muni Kandam. And the last pair of 5 and 6 is called the Kila Kandam or the Upasana Kandam. Coming to commentaries. Now, as I said, to study an Upanishad like this requires a great Acharya. And who are the great Acharyas? It is Adi Shankara, Vidyaranya Swami, Sureshwaracharya, Anandagiri. All these people have helped. Even with their commentaries, for those of us with poor knowledge of Sanskrit, we rely on Swami Paramarthanandaji and Swami Anubhavanandaji to guide us in this large forest of Upanishads to tell us what is important and what we need to study. Adi Shankara's commentary on the Brihadaranyaka is considered superlative. Anandagiri has given what is called tikas or footnotes, and all teachers consider these tikas and footnotes as very important. While Adi Shankara has given a commentary of the Brihadaranyaka as it occurs in the Kanva Shaka, Vidyaranya Swami has given a commentary on the entire Brihadaranyaka Upanishad as it occurs in the Madhyandina Shaka. Now, Sureshwaracharya, remember, both Chandogya and Brihadaranyaka are not poetic, they are prose form. Sureshwaracharya is famous as Vartika. Vartika means a commentary which is in poetic form. And the commentary by Adi Shankara has been made into a poetic commentary or an analysis by Sureshwaracharya in 12,000 verses, almost half the volume of Ramayana, and that is the extent of the volume of work by Sureshwaracharya. And Sureshwaracharya has a problem because he is a student, direct disciple of Adi Shankara, but there are places where he is in conflict with his teacher, and he has no qualms about saying, although my teacher has interpreted this way, but I would think a better interpretation is that, and our teachers bring that to our attention also. Sureshwaracharya's Vartika is very voluminous, and that has been further summarized by Vidyaranya Swami. So Vidyaranya has done two works for us. One is a commentary on the entire Upanishad from another part of the Yajur Veda, and also he summarized the Sureshwaracharya's Vartika. Some more information about the Bhashyam of Adi Shankara. Adi Shankara's Bhashyam, there are many areas of the Bhashyam that we need to look into. For example, what is this Sambandha Bhashyam? So when the time comes, I will touch on that. Right in the beginning, that means even before he addresses any of the mantras, he talks of what is called the Sambandha Bhasha. What is the connection between Karma Kanda and Jnana Kanda? Another very often quoted and referred to Bhashyam of Adi Shankara in Brihadaranyaka is called the Gata Bhashyam. Gata Bhashyam is all about creation, and because he uses the pot example so many times, it is named as the Gata Bhashyam. Then there is what is called sannyasa bhashyam, the importance of taking sannyas. Mahavakya occurs in this Upanishad, so that portion has a bhashyam, and that is also called the Mahavakya Bhashyam. Stories are extremely rare in Upanishads. We know in the Kena Upanishad there is a story. There is a story of Yaksha, and then Agni comes, Vayu comes, Uma Devi comes. There is one story. In the Kathopanishad, there is a nice story of Nachiketa. Otherwise, Upanishadic stories are very rare. In Chandogya, there are many stories. In Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, there are many stories. When they come, I will explain. But then today, as I'm telling you all about the greatness of the Upanishads, so to give you a taste, I will give you a glimpse of some of the stories. Now, whenever there is a thunder, you hear the sound da da da. And based on da da da, on the 5th chapter of Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, there is a story. The story is that the Devas from the heaven, the Asuras, and the Manavas reach Brahmaji. And Brahmaji was extremely busy. He had no time to give them an Upadesha. So all he gave them was 3 words, da, da, da. And then, of course, they had to meditate and see what is the message. So what is this story? We will see it in the 5th chapter. What is the connection between this story and the 3 gates to hell in the 16th chapter of the Trividam Narakam Dwaram? I want you to do a little homework and let us see the connection between this da 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 story, which will come a month later in our understanding. Now, the greatness of prana. Prana, among all the organs that we have. Organs means we have the 5 sense organs which give us information. There are the 5 organs of action, my hands and my legs and speech and so on. Then there is the pancha prana. So in that way, prana is also considered as one of the subtle body parts. Why is prana considered to be the greatest? There are stories which come both in the 1st chapter and in the 6th chapter. As you will see in the list of stories, Janaka comes so many times, Yajnavalika comes so many times. So, so there are many stories connecting with Janaka, Yajnavalika, and Yajnavalika's wealth, Ajatashatru, another very famous king, Shakalya, and so on. So when the time comes, let us listen to these stories in different chapters of the Brihadaranyaka. In Brihadaranyaka, the Upasana portion and the Vedanta portion are intermixed. Very rarely you have so much of Upasanas coming. And that is why I thought I'll take a few slides to explain what is Upasana. And to all of us students of Vedanta, unless you have gone through Upasana, we will not be able to come into Veda Anta or Jnana Yoga. One definition we should know what is Upasana. Upasana is Saguna Ishvara Manasa Vyapara. Swami Paramarthananda ji gives an importance to each word. Saguna Ishvara. That means the Lord with form. Manasa, it is a mental activity. A mental activity relating to Ishvara with form. When there is Nirguna Brahma is Nidithyasana. So, Nikrishta Vastu Utkrishta Drishti. That means something very ordinary. A piece of cloth with a certain design. When it is a national flag, it's a cloth only. But then you see that with reverence. So that is what is Upasana. Upasana is a form of mind training. If you see Swamiji's BMI slide, you will see one letter which is called Vasanas. Vasanas, whenever we go through a lot of experiences in life, some of these experiences leave a deep impression on our mind, and that influences our behavior, the way we think and the way we act. And when the vasanas are very strong, some of them could be Shubha vasanas, good vasanas, or bad vasanas. The bad vasanas can prevent us from rising high towards our higher nature or Omkara. And Upasana is a method to help us to deal with it. So there will be mental restlessness. Even as I'm talking, your mind could wander. So Upasanas will help to contain the turbulence in the mind and help us to be able to be sensitive for Jnana Yoga. Ultimately, we know that mana eva manushyanam karana bandha moksha. The mind can be the cause of my bondage. The same mind can be trained for freedom also. And therefore, Upasana helps us to train the mind. Upasanas help us to develop various forms of mental toughness. Upasanas are classified into three types: Manasa Puja, Manasa Japa, and Manasa Parayanam. Manasa Puja. Now, instead of doing a physical puja, I can close my eyes and see my Ishta Devata and do a mental puja. That is called Manasa Puja. Manasa Japa is the teacher has given me a mantra. For example, Shri Rama, Jaya Rama, Jaya Jaya Rama. I'm not doing it loudly, but I'm doing it mentally. That becomes Manasa Japa. Now, supposing I have studied 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, and when I mentally recite the entire 15th chapter, that becomes Manasa Parayanam. And through these methods, we are able to train our mind to be able to be eligible for Jnana Yoga. Upasanas also give us integration. That means my body, mind, and my speech all become integrated. Now, whenever the Upasana portion comes, both our teachers and Adi Shankara do not give too much importance, because over the years, many of those Vedic Upasanas have become irrelevant. Like in the next class itself, we will be hearing about the Ashwamedha Yaga Upasana and Agni Upasana, Hiranyagarbha Upasana, and so on. Now, most of these Upasanas have been replaced by mantras like Shri Rama, Jaya Rama, Jaya Jaya Rama. And that is why these are all powerful Upasanas and they have the same benefit. We come to the next topic. The next topic that we should know is what is this adyaropa and apavada. Whenever the topic of creation comes, the word adyaropa comes. And then Brihadaranyaka Upanishad is famous for the word neti, neti, not this, not this. So one method of introducing Brahman is to tell you it is not this, it is not this. It is not anything that you see and experience. So this is a method that our teachers use to communicate a wisdom which they have got by coming down to the level that we are in. Now, once they have reached that Paramarthika level, they have tasted or experienced something that cannot be described in words, but they want to communicate to us. So what they do is do a deliberate superimposition. Just like when you're building a building, you put a scaffold and then put the concrete. And once the concrete is set in, then the scaffold can be removed. So what is adyaropa? Adyaropa is giving us about creation. Now, the moment the topic of creation comes, we have introduced something which Vedanta does not believe in. Vedanta does not believe in a real creation. Although I experience creation, and for me, creation is so important, Vedanta comes down to our levels by bringing in creation, by bringing in karma, by giving in false goals like you have to become a Jivan Mukta, by introducing certain sadhanas and so on. And then when you come to a particular level, so they introduce Jiva, Jagat, Ishvara, Bandha, Moksha, sadhana. This is what is called Adyaropa. So what is Adyaropa? By definition, it is a deliberate superimposition. And once the concrete has set, and once the teacher knows the student's mind is now firm, the student now has understood, then the teacher now does neti, neti, not this, not this, not this. He begins to negate mano, buddhi, hankara, chittani, naham. Everything that I see and experience is not me. And this can be done only when the knowledge now becomes concretized, when you have become so clear. And the second chapter of the book of Brihadaranyaka Upanishad is predominantly an apavada chapter. We have heard this prayer long before we ever entered into the world of the Upanishads. And that prayer is Om Asatoma Sadgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. At that time, we did not even know these were Upanishadic verses. We never even knew until recently that these are all from the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Where do these things come in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad? It will come right in the first chapter itself. And what is the significance and what is the thing? We will see it in the next class. Right in the beginning itself, there is a certain Mahavakya. What is a Mahavakya? Any statement which reveals the essential oneness of the limited me or the seeming limited me, the Jivatma and Paramatma, is called Mahavakya. In the scriptures, they introduce 4 standard Mahavakyas from the 4 Vedas. And from the Yajur Veda, the Mahavakya is Aham Brahmasmi. Like from the Sama Veda, it is Tattvamasi. Tattvamasi is called the Upadesha Mahavakya. When the teacher wants to tell you your true nature, the teacher will tell you, you are that. And once I have understood the significance of this statement that the teacher has told me, I have to reply to the teacher and says, yes, my Lord, Aham Brahma Asmi. And this mantra, this Mahavakya occurs right in the beginning, in the first chapter of the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, which we'll see in the next class. I've come back to the question once again. Why should we study the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad? See, it is one of the most quoted Upanishad by Adi Shankara. Now, Adi Shankara's most favorite Upanishad is Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Of course, it is part of the Dashopanishads. It is part of Prasthanatraya. And if you really see, whatever is included in all other Upanishads is there in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. And therefore, let us study this Upanishad also. Now, when I'm talking about Brihad Aranyaka Upanishad, I have to quickly tell you what is Upanishad also. The word Upanishad means Upanishad. Upa means Guru Upasadanam, going towards a Guru. Ni means to sit down patiently. Shad means to destroy. Destroy what? All forms of bondage and ignorance. Because as a student, I have my capital is ignorance, and I have go to the teacher to destroy my ignorance. This is one meaning. Guru Upasadanam. Ni here means to sit at a lower level compared to the teacher. There is another interpretation of the word upa, ni, and shad. Upa means samipe, close to you. What is close to me, or what is closest to me, or what is me, my true nature, or Atma. Ni here means nischaya jnanam. I should be very clear. And the word shad is one who takes you towards that knowledge. The carrier, the instrument, the means that takes you. This is the second meaning of. There is one Upanishad called Muktiko Upanishad, where the teacher is Sri Rama and the student is Hanuman. There we have a discussion of, there were so many Upanishads. 108 of them are available. Of these, of course, this is not given in that Upanishad, because those Upanishads that have been commented by Adi Shankara and other great teachers are called major Upanishads. And Brihadaranyaka is one of those major Upanishads. Not that other Upanishads are not major. This is a technical term. Major only means all Upanishads are equally major. There is no minorness in Upanishads. Major only means commented by great teachers. To give you a glimpse of these 10 major Upanishads, remember this chart. From the Rig Veda, the Upanishad, which is part of the Dashopanishad, is Aitareya. Yajur Veda has got Shukla Yajur Veda, which we are studying Brihadaranyaka and Ishavasya. From the Krishna Upanishad, it is Taittiriya and Kathopanishad. From the Sama Veda, it is Kena and Chandogya. From the Atharva, we have Prashna, Mundaka, and Mandukya. And Kaivalya Upanishad is considered as a minor Upanishad. 6 quick questions when we study an Upanishad. What is Brahman? Where is Brahman located? What is my relationship with Brahman? What is this nature of Brahma Vidya? How do I get Brahma Vidya? What is the benefit of knowing this? All right. What is Brahman? Brahman also means Atma, my true nature. When you come to Vedanta, we realize I'm not this body-mind complex, but there is something more. And I want to know, what is this Atma? Where is it is located? The teacher will say, consciousness, not part, product. Consciousness here means Atma, is not part or product of this body. It is something that enlivens my body. It is not limited to my body. It is all-pervading. So where is Brahman? All-pervading and also in me. What is my relationship to Brahman? It is my true nature. What is the nature of this knowledge? Knowledge can be something directly in front of you. It is called pratyaksha. Knowledge can be something remote which has been taught to you indirectly. It is called paroksha. Knowledge about myself is called aparoksha. So what is the nature of this knowledge? It is aparoksha jnanam. How do I get this knowledge? It is possible only through scriptural study. Scriptures cannot be studied directly. You need a teacher, an acharya, and not an ordinary acharya, a person who is an embodiment of this teaching and who can communicate this teaching. That kind of a teacher you need to go. What is the benefit? I've already told you, vidyate hridaya granthi. All my the knot in my heart is gone. Avidya, kama, karma, everything is gone. That is the benefit of knowledge. Now, a little more about the same Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. In the there is one Brahmana. Brahmana means a section. That means you have chapters. Within these chapters, you have various sections consisting of 10, 20, 30 mantras and so on. One of these Brahmanas is called Maitreya Brahmana. And this Maitreya Brahmana appears twice with slight variations, both in the second chapter and the fourth chapter. And in this chapter, a very important question is discussed. Whom do you love the most and why? Everyone loves themselves the most. Why do you love yourself the most? The question often is asked is, you always love somebody who is the source of joy. We don't like somebody who's a source of sorrow. That means I must be a source of joy. But I don't experience myself. That means I should know the method of knowing myself. Beautifully discussed. We will study it in the second chapter when it comes. In the fourth chapter, there is a very nice topic called Swayam Jyoti Brahmana. One of the biggest topics is where the student, King Janaka, comes to the sage Yajnavalika and says, what is light? And there you have a discussion that light is not something that, is light is something because of which I'm able to see everything. But then he will introduce you from the light to the light of all lights, Jyotisham api Jyoti, and he will tell you how the consciousness in ourselves is the light of all lights. That is in the fourth chapter. In the fourth chapter also, there is another very important topic called the Sharirika Brahmana. Sharirika Brahmana has got many, many sections. One section, which is the most beautiful, is called Jnana Mahima, the greatness of Brahma Vidya. There you have a series of mantras, extremely beautiful, and a sample mantra which we have studied and which became the basis of the Tripti Deepa is this one. Atmanam ched vijaniya ayam asmiti purushaha kimbichan kasya kamaya shariram anusamjare. So when we come to the fourth chapter, we have a lot to learn. Even the introduction itself is going to be so detailed when we come to the fourth chapter, and we will learn about Sharirika Brahmana. With that, I have finished my introduction. Now, I want to see how much you have got. I can conclude the talk, but I will spend another 5 minutes. And those of you who are online, I want you to keep the chat box open and see how you can answer these questions. Now, why am I doing it in the quiz form? I will give the highlights of the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad in a form of question and answer. And I will request you to answer these questions. See, I'm not only teaching you or introducing you to the Upanishad, I'm introducing you to certain concepts which come very profoundly in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Right in the first chapter itself, there is a topic related to what is this Hridaya Granthi. And therefore, the question to you to answer in the chat box is, what is Hridaya Granthi? All right, please answer. I will give you the answer. I'll give you some moment to key it. And the answer is this. Hridaya Granthi is based on ignorance about my true nature. And because I do not know my true self, there is a kind of a knot in my heart. And then comes karma. So ignorance or ajnanam leads to adhyasa, which is kama, karma, punya, papa, vasanas, punarjanma, and so on. So Hridaya Granthi is one topic. The next question I have is about the comparison between Brihadaranyaka Upanishad and the Chandogya Upanishad. The question for you is, the mantras in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad are much bigger or much shorter compared to Chandogya Upanishad. Chandogya Upanishad, the Upasana portion in Chandogya is less, or in Chandogya, the Upasana portion is more. Shankaracharya's commentary is best in Brihadaranyaka or in Chandogya. Chandogya Upanishad, which chapters deal with Upasana, which chapters deal with Vedanta, whereas in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, Vedanta and Upasana and Vedanta are mixed all over. So the answers are here. The mantras in the Brihadaranyaka portion are very much bigger, and that's why this becomes a much bigger Upanishad. So long are these Upanishads, it might discourage you, that it will prevent me from really introducing the Upanishad also. I will take the highlighted portion of each Upanishad. In Chandogya, the Upanishadic portion is much more. Shankaracharya's commentary is considered vast, double that of Chandogya, and the best. In Chandogya, Upasana portion is the first five. 6, 7, and 8 in the of Chandogya is the Vedanta portion. Whereas in Brihadaranyaka, Upasana portion and Mantra portion are always mixed. And that is why I wanted you to learn more about what is an Upasana. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, what is the meaning of the word Aranyam? You know, Aranyam means forest. What is the meaning of the word Rana? Rana means battlefield. Aranya, where there is no battle. Coming to what are the two shakas within? See, Yajur Veda has got two shakas, Shukla Yajur Veda and Krishna Yajur Veda. Shukla Yajur Veda itself has got two shakas because Brihadaranyaka Upanishad occurs in both the shakas. And what are the two shakas? And who has commented on the Upanishad in the respective shaka? For example, in Shukla Yajur Veda, there is one Kanva shaka. The Kanva shaka, Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, has been commented by Adi Shankaracharya. The Madhyandina shaka, Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, is commented by Vidyaranya Swami. So, question has been answered. Let us go to the next question. Now, there are 6 chapters in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, but there are 3 kandams. Now, how do we divide the kandam? 1 and 2 is first kandam, 3 and 4 second kandam, 5 and 6 third kandam. Now, what is the name of the first kandam, the second kandam, and the third kandam? Let us see. It is Madhu Kandam, and Madhu Kandam is also called Upadesha Kandam, and it is predominantly like Shravanam. The next Kandam is called Muni Kandam because Yajnavalika is the teacher, and because there is a lot of logic involved, it is also called the Upapatti Kandam or the Mananam Kandam. And the third is called Kila Kandam. Kila means it is a jumble up of all these things. I'm not getting the right word. It is an assorted, it is an assorted chapter, but predominantly upasanas and a lot of stories, and therefore it can be called Shravanam, Mananam, and Dhyanam. Now, the answers are already given here, so I will not touch on this. What is the definition of the word upasana? You remember, upasana is Saguna, Ishvara, Manasa, Vyapara. Remember this definition. What do you mean by adyaropa and what do you mean by apavada? The word adyaropa is predominantly in the first chapter. Apavada comes in the second chapter. Wherever the creation topic comes, adyaropa comes. Once the knowledge has become set like concrete, then you can do apavada. So the definition of adyaropa is deliberate superimposition and subsequent negation. We've got it. Now, there are 4 named Mahavakyas. And the Mahavakya that comes in the Yajur Veda, in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, and because it is a Mahavakya that comes when you understand it, it is also called an aparokshata. When you have this understanding, the teacher will tell you Tattvamasi, but once you have internalized the teaching, that internalized aparokshata jnanam is called Aham Brahmasmi. With that, we come to the end of our introduction. Shri Gurubhyo Namah.
Thank you very much, sir, for bringing us the greatness of this great Upanishad. We are indeed grateful to be introduced to our rich spiritual heritage in such a systematic manner. We look forward to discovering more of this profound Upanishad through these 6 weeks. Classes will be premiered every Monday at 6:45 p.m. Please join us this Friday, 16th May, as we begin another great Prakarana Grantha called Drisha Viveka. Thank you, sir. ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरिः ओम् श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ओम्